Live from the Hyman Brown Studios at CUNY TV, also streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. This is our CUNY TV Town Hall focusing on immigration. Welcome. I'm Erna Valdemillo with my co-host, Alan Wernick, director and attorney in charge at CUNY Citizenship Now. Trump's immigration crackdown has kept the country glued to news of families being separated at the border, people in cages, ICE raids, and deportations. News that tell of heartbreak, of fear, and of widespread unsettlement. So how does all of this impact our own CUNY community, the largest public university in the country? Well, we have a great panel of experts with us tonight. First, we have the first Dreamer elected to New York State Legislature, Catalina Cruz. Also with us is student activist Monica Seabree. CUNY professor and sociologist Amy Sin. And immigration attorney Hassan Shafiqullah of the Legal Aid Society. And we also welcome our studio audience and everyone watching on Facebook and YouTube. Thanks so much for joining us, everyone. This is going to be a great discussion and a very important discussion. So I'm going to start off with my co-hosts. Just give us, first of all, a sense of the immigrants that we're talking about here. Well,
in the City University of New York, the number that's given out is about 31% of our students are born in a foreign country. Of course, we have many students who may have been born in the United States but have at least one or both their parents born in a foreign country. So they also have ties to the immigration issue. And we have, and those foreign-born individuals come in many different categories. Many of them are U.S. citizens. Many of them are permanent residents. They have green cards. We have a large number of people with temporary protected status, which is a status for people who can't return to their country because of natural disaster or war. We have people with deferred action for childhood arrivals, and we have a number of international students at almost all of our campuses, and then we have a fair number of undocumented students as well who have no lawful status. So that sort of makes up the whole different kinds of people that we have that we would call part of the immigrant community at the City University.
Amy, I follow you on Twitter, and earlier you had tweeted, because let's talk about the diversity of the immigrant community, because this is really more than just a Latinx, Latino, issue. And you had tweeted that 1/7 of Asians are undocumented.
Nationally, 1 in 7 Asian Americans are undocumented. Asian Americans are one of the fastest growing undocumented groups in the United States. And in New York City in particular, New York City is different than states like California and Texas, where the bulk of the undocumented population are coming from one region, which is Latin America, Mexico predominantly. New York is much more diverse. So at CUNY, for example, almost a quarter of the undocumented population are coming from Latin America, a quarter are coming from the Caribbean, Jamaica, Dominican Republic, Haiti, and also a quarter are coming from Asia, China, South Korea, the Philippines, and a quarter are coming from a lot of different other countries, including Eastern Europe and and Russia as well. So it's a very ethnically and racially diverse population.
So because it's so ethnically diverse and we're talking about so many different groups, like let me ask the Assemblywoman, how do you at this point tailor your policies, the policies that you're trying to pass, so that it can really sort of help all these communities, which it almost seems like impossible at times, right? Because of all the different languages and the different statuses.
I'd have to actually disagree with that. I think that there are so many similarities at the core of the kinds of communities we want to have. We want to have safe and stable jobs that pay us what we're due. We want to have safe and stable homes that are affordable. We want to have status. We want to be able to stay with our families. We want to have legal services. We want to have basic things that recognize our humanity that is the same exact regardless of what country, regardless of what language. And I think in a state like New York, whether you're in downstate or upstate, it's just going to be easier to obtain in one place versus another. But I think at the very core, we all want the exact same things. And you can see that in a fight like driver's licenses
Right.
for all, that we finally were able to pass after almost a decade of fighting for it. But when you talked to folks in upstate New York versus downstate New York, when you talked to folks in the Mexican community versus the South Asian community, it all came down to the ability to stay with their families, to make sure that they could drive somewhere, and it regardless of the language that they spoke.
Right. You know, Monica, you work with students. You are a student activist. What are the students saying about this, and you know, how are they feeling about all the changing policies? I mean, it must be really, really hard to keep track of everything.
From the perspective of an undocumented student, I think the pain never goes away, regardless of the immigration policies that we see happening through our country at the state level, at the local level, or at the national level. But more than anything, I think right now what we're seeing is a growing number of where do we really go for resources and who do we really trust. We know that for generations, the immigration conversation has led to sometimes the manipulation of students and just being part of this photo props and being part of the storytelling and sharing so they can get more funding for programs or initiatives. And so for us, it's more now, how do we really build a sustainable program, initiative, and resources that helps undocumented students feel comfortable with coming forward and saying, I'm here, there are resources I need, but also I feel like I can trust the community that's creating these resources for us. So I think that with everything that's going on, we're at a space of, we know there are resources, but now who do we trust, where do we go? And the breakdown comes down also completely different. You have undocumented immigrants who are recipients of deferred action for childhood arrivals, who are still in the program. You have people who could have qualified for the program that are no longer able to apply for the program. Then you have people who have TPS, people that many of the Lockyer students, for many initiatives that Alan Wernick himself created, which was allowing them to then get a re-entry into the country through advanced parole, that have now moved out of their status of undocumented DACA and are now applying for an official immigration status. So all these different variations allow us to also see how do we all approach what are the sentiments and the feelings that we have. And so you have a breakdown as a universal that I got to experience recently also working with Assemblywoman Cruz that is very common through our history and our time, and that is that the pain never goes away, but we're still willing to move forward and advocate for what's needed.
You know, Alan, this fall we have a number of new policies and changes that are coming up. What is the most urgent at this point, you know, especially for those who are have an undocumented status?
Well, what's really immediate is a new regulation that's going to take effect on October 15th. And under that regulation, it's going to be much harder for people who are in the United States who qualify to interview here for their green card, what we call adjustment of status, to get that status, because the regulation makes it more difficult to prove, as people have always had to prove, that they're not going to need public benefits in order to live in the United States. That has long been a requirement. But what this new regulation does is that it makes it very, very difficult for people to pass that test. In particular, there's a new form that's going to be required. People are going to have to show tax returns if they've been working. They want credit histories. They want employment histories of people working. They're going to question whether people speak the English language, whether they have work history. They're going to take into consideration their age. And for some people, they're going to require that they show 250% of the federal poverty level for their family, where right now the test is 125%. So we think that at CUNY Citizenship Now, we think people are going to be able to get through this even after the regulation takes effect, but it's going to be really a lot more work, and some people will be discouraged. Now, I just want to point out that we talk about October 15th. The application would have to be filed before that to avoid this new rule, but October 14th is a holiday. October 13th is a Sunday, so really you have until October 11th. But this is only a very limited group. These are people who are in the United States and qualify to apply for their green card here. Mainly we're talking about the parents of U.S. citizens, where the U.S. citizen is 21 or older, and the spouse of a U.S. citizen. And of course, and also you had to have come to the United States legally. So it's really a narrow group. And if I could just make one comment about that, about this whole question of the public charge. You know, the media has focused on the fact that the new regulation says that if you received a federal public benefit, then you're excluded, you don't qualify. But nobody qualifies for any of these federal public benefits. No one is going to be disqualified because of this rule. So I think this is basically an attempt by the administration to make it seem like there's all these people out there getting benefits. But as citizenship now, we haven't found anyone that qualifies for one of these benefits. So to summarize, this rule is going to make it really, really hard for people to get their green cards. But it is not going to be because people got federal public benefits, because the only federal public benefits people can get, the regulation itself excludes. But for some reason, and partly it's our fault as advocates, all the focus has been, we've fallen into this Trump administration trap of focusing on the fact that people are going to be getting public benefits.
Well, yeah, okay, go ahead, Hassan.
So there has been a public charge ground of inadmissibility, as it's called, since 1800s. And it's been focused just on people who are primarily dependent on benefits to survive. So I'm in a nursing home and Medicaid is paying for my benefits, or I'm getting welfare cash assistance or SSI, or things like that. What this new rule, if it becomes effective, would do is open up a whole new range of benefits that have never been considered before. Regular Medicaid for the first time, federal Medicaid, would become a problem. Food stamps would become a problem. Federal housing like Section 8 and things like that. So they're saying things that don't go to basic subsistence, but touching any sort of benefits may make it harder for you to get a green card through family members. And the intention behind this is, I think, really nefarious, that they are going to limit family-based immigration for people who are not from wealthy backgrounds. And Stephen Miller, Trump's immigration policy advisor, described this rule as transformative. They're trying to radically change immigration law, not by going through Congress the way that they should, but by using a rule and bypassing Congress altogether. And we think that is inappropriate, is illegal, and hopefully any of the litigations that have been filed across the country, hopefully at least one of them will get an injunction before October 15th.
Because you must have a lot of clients coming here very confused, scared, wondering like what to do.
People who are terrified about, I have a citizen child who's getting food stamps, which she's entitled to, do I need to get off of that? We know of HIV positive individuals who stopped receiving their treatment, or people with cancer who stopped their chemo. Even people who disenrolled their child from universal pre-K, which has nothing to do with public charge, but the fear is out there. And I think the chilling effect is really what the administration is banking on.
So how, bringing it back to the toll it's taking on students, you know, what kind of toll, Monica, has this had on students?
Well, I think you got to, again, go back to the conversation of who are the students that are directly impacted by this. And I think without a doubt, from the experience of working with them, what we've noticed is that sometimes it's not even about us, but it's about our families and everybody that is around us. So when we approach this, and I want to be very clear with the fact that my voice and the voices of the people that I work with doesn't represent the entire group of population that's of the CUNY system, or the students are affected by this. So for us, what we've seen, however, is that there is an emotional burden that continues to grow thanks to this administration, and also the lack of resources that are clear through the different programs that the university is providing. Sometimes we hear about programs and new centers that are open, but how many of them are really being funded through this student perspective, and how many of them are actually creating those resources for undocumented students and the students with all these other immigration status? I think that when you look back at how CUNY Citizenship Now was created, it started with this initiative to helping new immigrants, and that's something similar to what we're seeing now with the CUNY system, is this breakdown of different students with different status, with different stories that we need to now start providing resources for. So for us, it's really looking at this through a more collective angle about our families are affected, how do we continue to be in school while at the same time protect our families that could be easily in that space of deportation, and finding the right spaces to speak up about how we feel and get those resources.
But how do you get the word out to students and their families about, you know, how this will affect them? Because I think they are, you know, doing things, right? Like keeping their kids from pre-K, for instance, and some of the other things because of just a fear, right? So how do you get the word out? Like, how do you spread this message? How do you tell people, besides here on CUNY TV, you know, where to go, who to turn to?
Key issues or tools that we can use to address this is really reaching back out to who do we have that represent us, who has this bigger voice to start disseminating information. The center, CUNY Central, has immense power in terms of just sending out an email to every single student and administrator at CUNY from a platform that we've created that has always maintained that focus of providing resources to CUNY students, has always been about the university creating a central location for undocumented students, and not undocumented students who are international students only, or undocumented students who are DACA students only, but undocumented students with this bigger umbrella of what are some of those resources that they need. And I think in the space that we are right now, it's creating something bigger than that. I think we should create an immigrant space where everyone that has all these studies can come forward and ask for these resources. I'm surprised that CUNY Citizenship now hasn't gone to every campus and created its own immigrant center in every single CUNY school. That will be a safe space that we understand all these spaces, legal, resources from
like
that.
a one-stop shopping?
One-stop shop for every single student. They're in the central office, and they are providing services, but there isn't something local in your local school where you can go to. That's one, but in terms of disseminating information of what we currently have, students like me, students who become vocal, professors who become the role models that we follow, elected officials who share their story about becoming that person and following your dreams are key to continue sharing this message. Spaces like this are very important to continue to talk about the legal aspect of it. When we started, and I remember going to Allen and going to several people in CUNY Central, came out of nothing, came out of frustration, came out of pain, came out of not knowing where we can go for resources. We created a hashtag to be able to start sharing information. And that's something that all of you can do. All of you can start sharing through social media. And honestly, I think we are in a space of a lot of fear, but a lot of these opportunities are continue to grow and continue to letting us be in that space of sharing information. So just continue sharing, talking to one another. The immigrant story has always been that we always find out about these resources by talking to each other.
About it. Well,
So
thank you. Yeah, thank you, Monica.
talking.
We're actually going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with a personal experience from one of our students. Welcome back to CUNY TV's live town hall. This is our studio audience, and we're here talking about immigration and the toll it's taking on our CUNY students. And speaking of students, we have a student here. This is George Kanafati, and he is a senior studying biomedical engineering. Wow. I mean, I'm already like a C- at this point. And you have a personal story that we'd love to share with us. Thank you so much for doing that.
Yes, thank you for having me. So I'm Syrian. I was born in Venezuela. I've lived here most of my life. I do have DACA. Since I moved here, I've felt comfortable in all of my communities, even since I started here in kindergarten. But lately, with the administration that's in power now, in terms of deferred action, I've felt like I've felt more uncomfortable lately. In my communities, like in my engineering school, people know my story and they're comfortable with me, and I always feel welcome. But in the big picture, it seems like there's an uncertainty to my future, and that makes me feel uncomfortable because it seems like, I have on my driver's license it says temporary visitor, and I have no plans of being temporary. So that's how I feel. I feel like the administration doesn't know the stories of students. Doesn't know the stories of like where they've been, where they're from, why they're here, why they had to leave. There's no necessity to like focus on things like there has to be focus on the hardship and why the sacrifices had to be made in their families. So I don't feel like I'll ever be deterred, and I do have a place here. And I'm not a temporary visitor. I do feel like I want to make an impact in my community, and
that you're here to stay.
I'm here to stay, and my goals are to work in a medical device company, and I know that I will make a difference in people's lives in the future.
Yeah, you're going to save lives. So your family fled Syria, right?
My grandparents fled Syria because of war. My parents fled Venezuela because of economic hardship. So yeah, in the past, my family has been fleeing, and my goal is to stay. So
no more running.
Yeah, no more running. There's no need for that. I wanna be able to make a place for my family name and continue that. Yeah.
Well, thank you, George. I appreciate you sharing your story. And if anyone in the audience, has a question for our panelists, this is a great opportunity. Oh, actually, Amy, do you have a comment?
No, I also wanted to follow up on that comment, which is in our study we've been speaking to undocumented CUNY students, over 100 now, and I don't want to minimize the fear that deportation and the administration inflicts on the population, but aside from that, the daily struggles and worries that occupy students are, how do I pay for college? Because the cost of attending college is higher for undocumented students than for citizens and legal permanent residents because they can't apply for financial aid. And also, the undocumented youth who make it to college, they have to overcome so many obstacles. They are exceptional. They have higher GPAs, they have higher SAT scores than their citizen peers, and they're doing really well in school. But as you were saying, that there's this hanging over you is what is my future? I'm struggling with doing well in my courses, and I'm doing well in my courses, but without legal status, without a work permit, I can't. What is this education for, and how do I use it?
If I could just interrupt and make one point, and that is that there has been some change, and I was thinking maybe the Assemblywoman and Monica could talk about the New York State DREAM Act, because there is going to be a change. It is going to be easier for people at least to pay for their education if they're undocumented. That doesn't mean there aren't other problems and concerns, but I would just say that I see a lot of resiliency among the undocumented students, like the gentleman who just spoke. I mean, there's a lot of resiliency. People are maybe nervous and scared, but they're sticking with it. And I'm hopeful that this new law is going to help. Maybe you want to talk about what it is, and then Monica, you say how you think it might impact the immigrant community.
Absolutely. I would like to say something to George and to any of the other students who may be watching. It isn't that the administration doesn't know about your stories. It's that they don't care. This administration, this president doesn't care. They know why we fled. I fled Colombia because I witnessed a murder when I was 5 years old. They know the kind of people who are fleeing, and they're purposely putting in policies to keep people like us out. And so my commitment is to continue fighting for people like us. But my ask of the students within the CUNY system and everybody else out there, with or without status, is there is a way for you to become civically engaged and help change the system that's created the kind of presidency that we have now. I'll give you an example. Monica actually is the one who managed my campaign. And Monica's a dreamer, and I grew up undocumented. So there are ways to get involved and make sure that you are making an impact that goes beyond having amazing grades, which congratulations, because science and I feel you. But there are ways. So I encourage students to go out and volunteer, to make calls for people, to learn about the power that your voice has. That just because you have DACA now doesn't mean that your options are as limited as when I was undocumented. Because when I was undocumented, I was going to John Jay. I had 2 jobs, I was paying for school myself, and there was no Jose Peralta DREAM Act. We have that this year. After 10 years, finally we have it.
And what does that do?
It makes sure that young folks like him and those who grew up like me and those who grew up like Monica can have access to in-state tuition, to make sure that not just to in-state tuition, but to in-state financial aid, to make sure that we can go beyond only having to worry about surviving and paying for school and into actually thinking about what success looks like. And I'm like a hawk watching over the Cuomo administration and the agencies that are implementing this, because we want to make sure that what has happened through Excelsior, which I don't have to get into now, I'm sure you're all familiar with it, does not happen with the DREAM Act. Because to many of us, this is the difference between living or not living. I don't want to say dying, because it's more like you're walking around no sleep because you've had to work 2 jobs, you're worried about making rent, you're worried about your parents. This is not like Excelsior. Excelsior is a great opportunity for financial aid, but this literally is life and death for many of us. So the applications, they already began to be taken about a month and a half ago, and it's basically the same process that any other student goes through when they're applying for financial aid. Wouldn't know it because I never got to do it. But every every CUNY school, I am hoping, is actively helping students apply for this, because many of us have no clue how it's done. And so we want to make sure that as many students who are applying who qualify are actually getting accepted. And so if anyone out there who's watching has had trouble with their application, find me on Twitter, Catalina Cruz NY. Find me on Facebook, because I will come down like a hawk on the administration to make sure that our students are getting what we promise them. Because the late Senator Jose Peralta and the rest of the state legislature fought really hard to make sure that this was a reality, and we're not going to let anybody screw this one up.
And this will start in what, spring 2020?
Yeah. I mean, the idea was actually they released it early so that some students could actually get
Now?
some.
Supposed to start for this
for the
semester.
fall.
Right now.
And
So
just to,
the money that we allocated was technically supposed to be for next year.
Okay.
Because that's how the budget works. But they released the application early to hopefully allow students to get tuition as early as the fall. That's the goal. And so we want to make sure that if you have applied and you're not having good luck with the process, contact me on Facebook, contact me on Twitter, and we will help you work through it.
Yeah, because before this, like you and Monica, you could not apply for financial aid, correct? You did not qualify.
So so I just want to take it back to the story part of this, and I think it's really valuable that there are undocumented students that still say we're willing to speak up, we're willing to still share our stories. Not everyone is at that space. We do have people that are still in the shadows, and with this administration, we do have a lot of people that are even going beyond being in the shadows. The amount of depression, of people taking their lives nowadays because of the administration continues to grow, and that is not something we talk about. The amount of family conflict that grows with not knowing how to talk about this continues to grow. And so as we talk about what are some of the legislation things that we could do to create action, I think it's great. We have now access to the New York State DREAM Act, which gives access to undocumented students to qualify for state financial aid. We have driver's licenses that will give people that don't have a status access to having other kind of ID. But there's so much that we can do. I think we could create this CUNY centers throughout CUNY, but also provide that emotional support to families who are affected by this.
Okay, thanks. Before we actually expand on the impact of all these policies on our students, let's hear first from CUNY Chancellor Felix Matos Rodriguez.
What we want to do is we want our students to feel safe. So we are putting resources like Citizenship Now, which is the largest program in the country, providing support, concrete supports to immigrants, counseling centers, information when DACA was available about how to be able to apply. We keep their information and their records confidential. So in some ways, people ask us data questions and say, we don't know. Because
we're not telling.
But because we're not asking some of those questions to protect them, right? So I think that we have a very committed group of administrators, faculty, and staff who want to protect the students, and I feel very, very proud of what they've done in our campuses to do so.
And also on the phone right now is Deputy Commissioner Sonia Lin from the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs. Good evening, Sonia. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good evening.
Yeah, thanks for joining this discussion. So, you know, one of the one thing that is really confusing for a lot of people, we had been talking about this with our producers, is this idea of a sanctuary city. Is New York City a sanctuary city? And what does that actually mean?
So New York City is a city of immigrants. We are a city of 8.5 million people. About 40% of our population is foreign-born. That's 3 million people. If you take immigrants and the children of immigrants like myself, that's about 60% of the city's population. You know, we know here in the city that immigrants help make the city the greatest city in the world. You know, I think we are committed at this time in particular when, you know, there is tremendous threat to immigrant communities and tremendous fear and concern and confusion among our immigrant communities, to stand with our immigrant residents and make sure we're doing everything that we can as a city to protect the rights of our immigrant residents. And that means making, you know, strengthening our policies and and making sure that city services and resources remain accessible and safe for all New Yorkers, regardless of immigration status.
And that's part of being a sanctuary city, right?
Well,
Yes, and
If I may,
sure.
look, I actually helped write one of the bills that made New York City into a sanctuary city when I was an attorney for the city council. I think under former Speaker Melissa Margarito, there were several policies passed that basically limit, if not completely bar, the kind of information that is shared with entities like ICE. Like, we don't no longer do what used to happen, 10 years ago, that if you were arrested and you were undocumented and you pinged in the system as being undocumented, you're automatically turned over to ICE. ICE used to be in Rikers. They're no longer there. I think there are enough policies, and I believe I've actually heard the mayor called it a sanctuary city proudly many times. I proudly call New York City into a sanctuary city. We're making a New York State into a sanctuary state. I think we have to be proud of that. We have to fight for that. The federal administration continuously tries to threaten our funding over it. And so I am very, very proud to be one of the electeds that represent one of the few sanctuary cities in this country.
you know, one thing that I always like to say that CUNY is the most immigrant-friendly university in the country, and I think that's a fact. I think New York City is one of the most, if not the most immigrant-friendly city in the country. And one of the things that we get, of course, a lot of concern from our students and faculty at Citizens Now is about what happens if people get picked up and what resources are available. And what's happened in New York City is that through the City Council and through some funding from the state as well, there is a tremendous amount of resources that are available. And Hassan, I thought maybe you should talk a little bit about that, because I think one of the things people need to understand is there is help out there. And I'm going to have you talk about, tell us what that help is, because I know that Legal Aid is one of the leading organizations in providing that assistance.
So I'll talk about the resources, but I just want to say two things about sanctuary cities. So two of the things that make New York a sanctuary city are that we don't honor ICE detainers unless people have certain criminal convictions, which I have certain feelings about. But it's a huge change from how things used to be before 2014. So that's great. But also, you can contact city agencies and they shouldn't be asking about your immigration status unless it's relevant to the benefits you're seeking. So if I'm a domestic violence survivor and if I call the police, they're not going to ask about my immigration status. There's a local law that says they shouldn't. But if I'm seeking welfare benefits for my child, they can ask about my status because it's relevant. But generally, my immigration status is off the table, and that's one of the things that makes it safe to access local services. In the last couple of years, the city has invested a tremendous amount in immigration legal services. Kudos to both the mayor and to the city council for supporting removal defense, meaning deportation defense, and help with applying for benefits affirmatively. So the simplest way to do that is just to call 311 and say Action NYC and ask to be connected with an immigration practitioner.
So if ICE is knocking on your door, call?
Well, if ICE is knocking on your door, then the first thing you want to do is see, do they actually have a warrant, a search warrant? Is that warrant actually signed by a judge? Usually it's not. It's just signed by some ICE officer, which is an administrative warrant, not a judicial warrant. If it's not signed by a judge, you do not need to open your door. You do not need to talk to them. You don't have to answer any questions. You can just stay with the door closed. They will threaten you. They will try to scare you, but you have the right to not engage at all.
Basically, let me just clarify. I just speak on your behalf. If you're indigent, I mean, you can't afford private attorney, and you're in deportation proceedings in New York City, you're going to be able to get help. Is that a fair statement?
It is, especially if you're detained. So let's say ICE did take me into custody. Somebody opened the door, they got me at my job. There is something called the New York Immigrant Family Unity Project, which is funded by the City Council, where you will have an attorney assigned to you. There's generally no right to an attorney in immigration proceedings, but in New York, if you're detained, you will have a free attorney assigned to you, which is incredible.
But how long is the process? Is there a backlog? You must have, a lot of people that you're servicing.
For detained people, there's no backlog. Like everyone who comes through our door, if they're eligible, meaning you're not represented, you don't have a private attorney, and you're low income, because this is for free legal services, you will have an attorney assigned to you.
Amazing, right?
Yeah, no, that
people
is
need to
amazing.
know that. It's important that people know that. And you know, of course, at CUNY, if people want more routine kinds of services, like they want to get a green card through a family member, they get married to a U.S. citizen, they want to become a U.S. citizen, CUNY provides those services. And to me, that's an amazing thing. And I've been doing it for CUNY, running this project for 23 years. And every day it still amazes me that the university is willing to fund a project like this that not only helps our students, which of course are number one priority, but their friends, their family, and the community at large.
Okay,
so
thank
it's just
you.
great.
Thank you, Hassan, for that. We're going to take a quick break and continue our discussion. Thanks, guys. Welcome back to CUNY TV's Live Town Hall. I'm here with my co-host, Alan Wernick, with CUNY's Citizenship Now. We've also got an esteemed panel here, but I know that our audience is dying to ask some questions. So raise of hand. Okay, so we have a question over here. I'm going to hand you the mic. Just introduce yourself and go ahead and ask the panel your question.
Thank you. I have a question. My name is Evan LeGros. I've been practicing immigration for over 20 years. On the private side. It's sort of a question and sort of echo what you guys have said earlier. I think it's super important for students and people in general to seek out consultations, whether it's with an attorney, because immigration is not one size fits all. It's extremely complex. There are students that age out when they're 18. There are things that you qualify for prior to age 21. There's a special immigrant juvenile, so there are things that you can do. My question is, I heard a lot of great answers here tonight. But what is CUNY in particular doing to let students know that they should seek out consultations with attorneys? I'm a part of AILA, American Immigration Lawyers Association. We have an army of attorneys who are ready to help students, to help people in general. Just don't be afraid. Seek out the assistance. I think it's super important. That's my question.
Who would like to answer that?
Please.
I'd like to just say
Son?
one thing
Yeah.
about the importance of seeking assistance, because people may have opportunities that they don't realize. So let's say I have temporary protected status, TPS, because I come from a place where there was a natural disaster or a civil war or something, and I'd cross the border without permission, and I think I don't have a way to get my green card. But over time, maybe years ago, I traveled with government's permission. It was called advanced parole. And recently, I married a U.S. citizen. I may not realize that that trip that I took, plus my U.S. citizen spouse, means that I can now get my green card here. Until I sit down with an immigration practitioner and see what my options are, I may not realize that I'm sitting on my answer right now.
Well, one thing people can do if they want a free consultation, and this doesn't apply just to CUNY students, go to cuny.edu/citizenshipnow. Our project, Citizenship Now, has offices in we have 6 offices in New York City, 6 full-time offices with attorneys, paralegals, and staff that are open, 5 days a week. And we're also, thanks to the City Council of New York, we provide attorneys in 36 City Council offices throughout the city. So there's no reason anyone can come in for consultation. There's no geographic or fee requirement. We don't screen for that. We just say, well, how can we help you? Make an appointment, you come see us. And speaking of the American Immigration Lawyers Association, good shout out to them for sending so many people to this. Last Saturday, we had a big citizenship event. We helped over 600 people with their citizenship concerns. We're very pleased to have partners like the American Immigration Lawyers Association and the Legal Aid Society, among others.
If I may address that question, one of the things that you learn when you're an undocumented immigrant, you have to go through the process. Nobody comes to tell you that the information is there. And so this is an open invitation to Fellow, or your president, as everybody knows him. We have a pending meeting. I'm going to talk to him because I think it's important for the CUNY system to do what I do in my office. I don't wait for people to come and do consultation. I go out. My team goes out to the train stations and gives out Know Your Rights. We go out to the schools. We actually go out to where the people are and tell them, we have a van from NILAC that comes several times a year and gives free consultations. We have lawyers in our office. We have the things in our office, but these are students who are more worried about their 2 jobs, paying rent, their 5 classes. We can't expect them to know what they don't know. And so I would hope and I would love for CUNY to work with their local electeds like me. And I am committing myself to working with CUNY to make sure that we're getting that information out there. I happen to represent the district with the highest number of undocumented New Yorkers in the entire state. And so I can guarantee you that I have a lot of CUNY students. And if Alan, if you want to give me that information, I would love to share it with my students, because we can't sit and wait for them to come to us. We have to go to them.
Okay, we actually have another question from our audience member. This is Christopher Rodriguez, right? From the Deputy Mayor's Office, right?
Yes. My question is, can immigration enforcement intervene in New York City jails? And if so, what actions or steps can we take to protect individuals, whether adolescents, youth, or anyone who's maybe facing immigrant consequences?
Maybe Hassan.
Detainer law.
So ICE used to be in our jails. They used to be at Rikers Island. They used to come around and ask people questions, get people to sign things that were not translated to them. And often what people were signing was an agreement to be deported and give up all their rights. It was crazy. So one of the steps that New York City took toward making us a sanctuary city is saying, ICE, get out of Rikers Island. You're not welcome here. We contract with ICE to hold folks who are in detention, not within the city, two jails in New Jersey, one in upstate New York, but they're not in or should not be in our jails within the city.
Thank you.
Can I also say that there is an intersection between immigration law and the way we criminalize poverty in the city, and the way that it's racialized. And so if we're talking, this is it's at the intersection. We think about undocumented immigrants. We also need to think about decarceration. That helps everyone, but it also helps undocumented immigrants. And we need to really stop decriminalizing poverty in New York.
You want to talk about broken windows?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it needs to be part of the conversation.
Right. So in one way, I'm just going to say
ahead.
one thing
Yeah,
on this
yeah.
if I can. So we talk about broken windows policing, where they stop you for low-level offenses to improve the quality of life. But I'm going to give you an example about how that can be devastating for somebody who's undocumented. So let's say I don't have status, I'm undocumented, and I'm riding my bicycle down the street, and I run a stop sign, and a police officer's there, and she wants to give me a ticket, and I don't have any ID on me. So they have the right to take me into a precinct, to fingerprint me, to see can they identify who I am, do I have any warrants for my arrest. I don't. This is the first thing I ever did. So they're going to print me and send me home, and I get a desk appearance ticket, and I think that it's over. But here in this sanctuary city, what's going to happen is my fingerprints from that precinct will be sent to Albany, to the Division of Criminal Justice Services, which will send my prints to the FBI in Virginia, and ICE gets to see the FBI database. So my little stop sign, my red light running ticket or whatever it was on my bicycle has now suddenly exposed me to ICE in the sanctuary jurisdiction. Now, you think, oh, okay, somebody riding their bicycle, but what about had an open container on the street, or any of those low-level offenses that broken windows policing targets? It's incredibly dangerous to immigrant communities to do that sort of policing.
So we still have the Commissioner, Sonia Lin, on the phone. And if you're hearing some of the stories here, Commissioner, can you give us your opinions on all this?
Hi.
Hi,
Yes.
Sonia.
Hi. Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Right. Were you able to hear some of the comments and some of the answers here in the studio audience?
Yeah, I have been, and I think it's a really important discussion. And I think as some of the panelists spoke to earlier, we have made a lot of progress as a city in terms of the way that the city handles detainer requests from ICE. And so as the panelists discussed, we've seen a dramatic reduction in the detainer requests honored by the city from ICE due to changes in the law that were made over the course of the last several years. And so whereas in the past, I think we saw many New Yorkers who had been arrested and were held in city custody going into ICE custody as a result of those arrests. Right now, under our detainer law, the city will only respond to ICE detainers where somebody has been convicted of one of a limited number of violent and serious offenses, and will only hold a person for ICE if ICE provides a judicial warrant. And so according to the most recent reports issued by our sister agencies at the Department of Corrections and the New York Police Departments, you'll see that the numbers are dramatically lower in terms of individuals who are transferred into the custody of ICE from the city from what you saw in 2012, 2013. I don't have these in front of me, but I think under 30 people in the last year from the custody of the Department of Corrections.
Commissioner,
it's all part of our effort, really, to make sure that, for public safety, that people know that the city is not in the business of immigration enforcement. We do want to advance public safety for all and make sure that people continue to feel safe, reporting crime, being witnesses for crime, and interacting with city agencies.
Now, Commissioner, we've been hearing stories about ICE raids in the city. Has there been, and the audience actually is like nodding in agreement, has there been an uptick in ICE raids in the city?
Well, unfortunately, I think we have seen a tremendous spike in immigration enforcement under the Trump administration. So our analysis of federal statistics that have been released by ICE indicate there's been an increase of about 88% under the Trump administration compared with the last year of the Obama administration, with much huger spikes, in particular amongst those without criminal convictions, those who have lived in the United States for a long time. And so this is something, a trend that we've seen since the Trump administration took office. Definitely this summer, I think the issue of raids came out much sharper into public consciousness with the announcement from the president of planned ICE raids. And I think, what we saw was tremendous fear and confusion. We set up a rapid response email, actually, and we're monitoring social media and hotlines to track reports. And a lot of reports of ICE activity turned out not to be ICE activity. And I think, part of this perpetuation of fear and confusion was intentional. And at that time, we saw a couple of things: the huge importance of know your rights information, because all of us have rights regardless of our immigration status. As was discussed earlier, people don't have to open their door. They can ask for a judicial warrant. They have the right to remain silent. So we were out there with our partners sharing know your rights information, doing workshops, working with volunteers, and working with communities to fight back by educating ourselves. And then we also saw the real importance of immigration legal services and the availability of trusted, safe, accessible immigration legal help. The city, as has been mentioned, has invested tremendous amounts in immigration legal services. Over the last few years, we have the Action NYC hotline that people can access by calling 311. And, panelists have talked today about many other very excellent immigration legal service outlets that are available for community members as well.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Commissioner, for joining us tonight in this discussion. Turning it back to our panelists, Professor Sin, what are, some of the students' rights? What can they do?
At CUNY?
Mm-hmm, at CUNY, or even outside of CUNY. I know we have in our audience, students who are at a private school in Jersey City, for instance.
In terms of do you mean like the legal rights within, at CUNY, undocumented students can pay in-state tuition, and now with these changes in legislation, they are eligible for state financial aid. They're still not eligible for federal financial aid. So there's additional burdens of paying for tuition. 70% of the population is at the poverty line. So these are, families that are really struggling. And so there are continued struggles that they have to pay for school and working multiple jobs. And then the additional, worry about the temporariness of their status, like living in limbo, not really knowing for sure what's going to happen in the future. So that weighs on them, and the additional stress of deportation and the stigma related to all the narratives that are occurring. So there's a lot to handle.
And there has been a lot of fear. Let me just say, the commissioner talked about, as a practical matter in New York City, the people who've been picked up are people who either had outstanding deportation orders, had criminal records, or happened to be around people who had one of those two categories. The notion of random pickups at the subways, all those have been debunked. That hasn't happened. Surrounding of schools, that hasn't happened. So I think that the important point to make are two. One, there is a tremendous amount of fear. Some of it is reasonable and justified, because if you're in a house and somebody happens to be in one of those categories and ICE comes to that house, you are in danger. But it's not as bad as some people make it think. It may make it think. And the other thing is, again, going back to the fact that we do have legal services available to defend people. Now, the last point I'd make is at CUNY, our policies are very, very clear. No ICE agent can go on a CUNY private area. That means a secure area. Obviously, they can go on the sidewalks if they want to outside the campuses, but they cannot go into a restricted area of the campus unless they have a federal judicial warrant, and they almost never have that. I've never seen one. I've been doing that for more years than I want to mention now, but I've never seen a federal judicial warrant in an ICE or immigration arrest. So they don't have them. So that means, as a practical matter, they're not going to be going onto our campuses. In terms of going around the schools, like I said, we've only heard false reports, and none of them ever checked out. So on the one hand, while it's important to know your rights, to know what ICE can and can't do, but the other thing is not let these kinds of scare tactics intimidate us into crawling into a hole, because as was said, as the Assemblywoman said, you know, undocumented people can do a lot. Don't need to be hiding underground. Some, I understand, are, but if you want to talk, you're giving me that look.
Actually,
you want to say
no,
something?
I have a lot to say, but I definitely want to hear more from.
Yeah, we have a question from the audience. Just introduce yourself.
Yes. First of all, congratulations. This is a fabulous panel. I'm Professor Villadrich, Annie Villadrich. I teach actually with Professor Singh at Queens College at the Graduate Center in Sociology. And you answered many of the questions I had, but I still have one question left. And it's related to the chilling effect, and it's related to what is next. I agree with all of you that there is so much to be done with Dreamers, and you have done it. Many of you, many of us also in the audience, we have done it. But I'm concerned about a new kind of chilling effect that is taking place now, even among my students, which is with the parents or relatives that are being deported or under the fear of deportation. And what is the message for them? And I'm saying this because you have answered some of it, but still, those are the ones who are not coming back to class, not because these students are being deported. It's because they have to pay for the legal fees for the mother, because of the stigma that the father is going to be deported, and because of being the selected, the privileged one. The Dreamers in many cases have been the posters, the super immigrant who is paying the price for that label. So, thank you.
That's actually, that's a good question.
Many of us call ourselves the lucky ones.
Yeah.
It's actually very interesting that you'd use that term. Monica and I have often talked about how difficult it is to be that figure in the house. When I was coming to CUNY, it was during the time when I was actually at my second CUNY, because I'm a double CUNY grad at CUNY Law School. It was during the time when President Bush, son Bush, was doing the raids in Long Island and in certain parts of Queens. And so it was a similar feeling, not as bad as it is right now, but a similar feeling. One of the things that we're doing in our office, which was actually an idea from my own chief of staff, was we made our own office into a little sanctuary. So if anyone needs, we have folks there right now that they have fears, if they want to come do their homework there, if they want to come and just literally hang out, because I will dare any ICE agent to come to my office and try to take them. And so I think it's those little things that if we convince others in our community to create those safe spaces, the word will get out. It's not going to be easy. And there is no way that you'll ever be able to convince that student that class is going to be more important than paying for that legal fee for their parents. There's no way. Because for that student, they can always go back to school, but they'll never be able to get mom or dad back. And so if you come into contact with the student that has happened to, feel free to send them to our office. We'll connect them with Alan, we'll connect them with Legal Aid, we'll connect them with a place that they can get the services so that hopefully next semester they can go back to class. Because at the end of the day, for them, for us, this is about the survival of our family. And you know, we're always saying education first, not this time. For many of us, we got to keep our families together. We can always go back to school, we can always pick that up again, but we will never be able to get mom and dad back.
You just answer my students.
Oh, that's good.
There we go.
I hope your students are listening.
We'll connect after.
But for some students too, they're all alone here now, some of them. And that must be, I think, Monica, you talked about that some people are actually self-deporting. They're just moving back, so that they could be reunited with their deported family members.
Right. So I want to just take it all the way back to the questions that started with just knowing what are the resources currently available there. And it's really interesting. We all started growing in CUNY Dreamers and then taking on to New York Dreamers and then taking that level of action to getting someone who was formerly undocumented to understand those resources at that leadership level to bring it back with access to more programs, passing on legislation. This is something that we currently use as what motivates some of those students that cannot come forward. But we all started back there when we couldn't talk. I couldn't say who I was or tell people my story. And when I did, people will come and continue to ask questions such as, how are you in school? Why are you doing this? Are your parents okay? Are you about to get deported? And those questions sometimes are very coming from a space of wanting to learn more. But for us right now, especially in this time, it's not necessarily what we want to hear. It actually concerns us more. It worries us more. But in terms of resources, the question earlier, I will say the City University of New York has been very nice to us. We are a student-led organization that now it's growing in its board advisory. So if anyone is interested, that's something you could do. There you can have a family. There you can have someone who can understand who you are and where you're coming from, but also put into practice some of the things that you have feared for so long. When I came in there, I said, I'm so afraid of not being able to come to school because they're charging me out-of-state tuition. Well, we all got together and say, why are we paying out-of-state tuition? How much should we be paying? We worked in a year-long campaign to get the university to actually change that and create a system and gave us all that money that they overcharge us. So we created a system of communication with CUNY to be able to talk about what are some of the concerns that we have without me necessarily going there by myself. The other thing that we have that's very key, and it's an annual conference that happens every year, that the university have funds, and now this year hopefully we get more people to support. That's where we really build on from what you're seeing to what you want to change and create an immigrant student agenda to create those changes. Do we have to have a CUNY center, an immigrant center in every CUNY? Do we want to have access to a mentor in every school that doesn't just talk to us about the legal aspect of it, but also the emotional, the mental health? And as the Assemblywoman mentioned, this is not about us. We're here in this space because we care of our families. We're fighting for them, and that's not going to change. You cannot come and tell me, quit school, stay in school because that's the way to protect your family. I'm not going to do it. If I have to protect my family, me at home, that's what I will do. And so how do you support me there? And one of the things that we've done, as simple as that, I literally have one mentor that shares with me a box of fortune cookies so then I can open them whenever I'm stressed out or I'm depressed about how I can talk to my mother.
Monica.
That's just one little thing.
Thank you so much, Monica. So we could just go on and on and on about this. We wish we had another hour. Unfortunately, our time is up. So we'd like to thank our studio audience, our esteemed panel of experts. You all were wonderful. And my co-host, Alan Wernick. Now, if you'd like to carry on this conversation, meet us all on social media or email townhall@tv.cuny.edu. And thanks to you, our viewers at home on YouTube and Facebook Live. Good night. We'll see you next time. Thank you, guys. That was
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.